What will you do to organize the Department of Education to deliver staff development more effectively to teachers?
My background is that I worked for a large corporation. It was Monsanto Chemical Company, which my son loves to tell me is the most evil company, which shows that I can rise to a challenge because I was their public relations director in the past when people had a good view of the company. But I had many jobs in that company, and one of them was staff development inside the firm. And so I have a background in that, working with employees. I also worked for John Portman. He's an architect that built most of downtown Atlanta, and I was his PR director for the merchandise mart. So we had to deal in large-scale numbers of employees. We sent our news releases out in 25 languages. So working with employees and motivating them, that just comes with the background I've been involved with.
Thank you. Alan?
What I would like to do for staff development is every teacher needs it all the time. My wife is a teacher, and she craves staff development because she wants to learn how to do better each and every day. She's a really good teacher. If I was half as good a superintendent as she was a teacher, I'd be pretty darn good. But she craves knowledge. She wants to learn. She wants to know how to teach her kids better. She wants to know how other places teach. And so I would use our regional educational service agencies, which are located throughout the state, because it's convenient for the teachers to go there. It is convenient for the people in the DOE to go to those different places all over the state of Georgia, so they can have appropriate small training. You don't have to take them to Atlanta. You don't have these big 400 delegate meetings that you have where you go to these little mini sessions where you're cramped and you don't learn much. But you go to these regional education service agencies and you have people that can teach 1-on-10 about second grade math. You can teach teachers about 1-on-10 about Georgia history. You can teach the teachers 1-on-1 to have local staff development that is relevant to their school, that is relevant to their students, and that actually costs you nothing because the recess are already there, their staff development people are already there, and the state people can drive there and impart their knowledge and wisdom. And this type of staff development that is more hands-on, 1-on-1, costs the state of Georgia nothing, and we learn something new every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you, Alan. And professional learning is absolutely critical. In my experience, student achievement tends to trail professional learning. You've got to have high quality professional learning, and you will see. If you focus on it, you'll see the needle start moving in professional learning. You talk about how are we going to do that. First thing we have to give our teachers is the time to do so. 2/3 of the districts in our state are operating on less than 180 days that are required by state law because of the funding issues. The professional learning days were the first to go. We don't have the time, so we've got to find a way to provide our teachers the time. How do you do that? Well, we've got to use the RESAs, the Regional Educational Service Agencies. They are our best friend. They've got talent. They are close to the local districts, and they can help get the professional learning out there. So we have to support them, and we've got to have a symbiotic, hand-in-glove relationship where we are working together to help our teachers do a better job teaching. We've got to use the talent that we have in the state of Georgia in our teaching corps. There's plenty of talent out there. We can utilize the best practices across the state. We can archive those lessons. We can use GPB, and we have, to archive the lessons so that third-grade teachers can view it on their own time. The administrators can say, hey, let's look at questioning technique, for example. Those teachers can get together at their own convenience, look at the lesson, and then get together and talk about it. But we've got to utilize webinars. We've got to use archived professional learning activities, and we've got to use the talent we've got across the state in the teaching profession through the RESAs. Those teachers learn best from teachers, and they believe it when teachers are sharing the successes that they've got. We've got to get best practices from across the state and make them available to all of our teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, first, I think you listen to teachers, and you ask them what it is their needs are, what they feel, their training, and that probably will ebb and flow depending on where they are in their career and what location, if they've moved from a metro to a rural area, or or changes like that. So we need to listen to our teachers, but we've got to measure the efficacy of training. And I mentioned earlier that Texas has a system, the financial allocation system of Texas, and they measure these things. For every dollar spent, they get a measurement on the return on investment financially for the taxpayer and an increase in achievement. So we want to make sure the taxpayers of Georgia are paying for training that is driving student achievement up. We want to make sure that it's we're being frugal with that it's not lots of money and little achievement gains. So we need to listen to teachers, see what they need, and then we've got to measure the different programs. And then we can share that other states are doing better than us on this because they're measuring their results. And we need to work with our regents who are overseeing the colleges in our state, because that is, they're producing teachers, and we need to know when they graduate, are they effective from day one? And if not, why are they not as effective as they are from, say, Vanderbilt? What's going on there? We need to understand that and work with the state system. I spoke with a regent the other day about that issue. So there's a lot of study to be done there. We just can't say, just have platitudes. Well, we want to just... teachers learn better from teachers, and so we need to actually check that out. We need to verify that. We have to determine if it actually works and that you're getting return on investment. Otherwise, we're wasting your money. It's your money. So we've got to take a look at systems that do track that, and that's the kind of accountability I want to bring to Georgia.
Again, as an individual who was in charge of staff development, I can, and has seen some of the things that's coming out of DOE, I can assure you that most of the stuff that I've seen, if you suffer from insomnia, it's a good cure. Because, one of the things we look at it as far as education is concerned, for a teacher, it has to be purposeful, it has to be meaningful, it has to be sensible. It has to be relevant as far as what we use. And so many times in education, what we find out is that, it's highly faddish. Today's, fad is yesterday's news. And so we have to make sure that when we are planning for, staff development, that it's long-term. It is something that it will actually have relevance, as far as improving our education, improving the craft that we have. And part of the problem that we have up there is that, you kind of go back to marketing. Anytime you have a delivery system, you make sure that, that it's proven and tested. You field test it before you actually send it out to the customer base. And there's a reason, why businesses do that. So that they can show relevance, so they can make sure that it's meaningful, that it is sensible. So I think that when we look at staff development, yes, we have lots of delivery systems, but, as a teacher, if it doesn't meet a need, if it's something where I'm just going to sit for hours and hours and just be completely bored and waste my time, then, we don't need it. And there's a lot of that out there. So we need to make sure whatever we offer has been proven, it has been tested, and it again has been seen by the people that are actually going to use it. Let's have some marketing up front. Let's make sure that it is sound. Make sure that it does not put us to sleep while we're sitting there watching it. So, we can do some things, add some business to it, make it smarter, make it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Terry Kay?
I've done staff development, teacher professional development, and teachers are a tough group because they're teachers and they know what they're doing in the classroom, and they want something out of it, and they want to come and be able to share their ideas too. So I've done professional development for RISAs. I've flown out to different states to do professional development for teachers who are in trouble because they haven't met AYP, in Newark, in New York, and work with school districts in Florida and Alabama. And in all my experience in all this professional development, and in higher ed, teaching people who are going to be teachers, teaching people who are in the classroom, I have met so many wonderful teachers. What I would do if I were in charge of professional development would be completely different from what I've been doing. What I would do is I would get those teachers who are expert teachers, who are out there every day teaching with the material, and have them present what they're doing. That's what I would do. And it wouldn't cost us very much because they're already on the payroll. They're already doing it. And they need to be honored. I don't want to be that consultant. I've been that consultant who comes in, and flies out, and it doesn't work.
Thank you. Kira?
Well, I've been to staff development, and as a teacher coming out of it, because it was mandated by some person in the state that said you have to have so many hours of staff development. And I can tell you that it was not useful to me at all, none of it. And I've been teaching now for 21 years. What I can tell you is useful for me as a teacher, and what I can tell you is useful for most teachers, is what are called professional learning communities. What we do as teachers is we work together and with other teachers within our school who teach the same thing. So we're going to come together, we're going to come up with some common assessments, we're going to look at the data of that common assessment or the results of those common assessments. And then what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what worked, what didn't. Gosh, you're really good at teaching mood. My scores weren't really good in that. Maybe we can switch children so that we can go ahead and make sure that my students understand it the way yours. Or show me what you did that's better. Professional learning communities are smaller than RESAs. They're smaller than the county, and they start at the local school system. And when we talk about professional learning communities, we're talking about trusting our teachers to be the content experts, but maybe not necessarily the delivery expert in that one specific area. So if we look at the professional learning communities, or PLCs is what they're called, we are looking at teachers trusting each other and looking at best practices and ensuring that those best practices are put into place. I think that's where we start, and then when we find schools that are really, really, really doing well on their tests and on their assessments, then what we can say is, gosh, that person's doing great. Decatur City Schools, they have a 90% graduation rate. We need to call in some of those teachers to find out what they're doing that's better than the rest of us. We utilize our local school, then we go to our neighbors.
Thank you. And Chris?
One thing I'm finding is when you go last, you have all these ideas, and you don't want to repeat all the stuff that I've heard, because it's all been, it's spot on. It's all very responsible and understanding. I will tell you, when I think about organizing staff development, first of all, I'll tell you, it's key and essential. It needs to be impactful, and it needs to be rewarding. Like I said, you don't want to bore, you don't want to bore your teachers to death, but you want to give them something that they can have some practical application for. And if we're going to have standards on how many hours you need in a year, let's make sure that the scale represents that. So a first-year teacher would probably have a little more faculty development than your teacher that's been teaching for 21 years. And I agree wholeheartedly that we need to take our experienced teachers that are doing well in the classroom. I don't want to take them out of the classroom, because that's where they're most effective, but we have to somehow harness what they're doing and pass it on to our other teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Alan. We're going to go a little personal here.
Staff development is critical. Far too many times we take bad teachers and we put them out to pasture. And we try to say that, this is just a bad teacher and let's try to find a way of getting rid of them. A lot of teachers try, and some, like people, are better than others. What I've been able to see in our charter schools is that when we develop professional learning communities, which are where one good teacher is put in a position to lead other teachers, to help them get into the details of differentiated instruction and teaching them how to teach different kids at different levels in one classroom, those teachers are good. And when you have those teachers put in a position where every week they're teaching and leading their colleagues, making sure that bad teachers don't stay bad, we can raise the bar across an entire school. We've seen it happen. And that doesn't cost you any more money. Many candidates are going to talk about what we have to change as far as funding. And true enough, our teachers do too much with too little. But we have to play to our strengths. We have to look at where we have strong teachers and put them in a position to lead. And those teachers who are put in a position to lead should be tapped for leadership, becoming assistant principals, moving up to principals. As far as organization, we need to use more effectively our RESAs. Our REITs are regional education centers that are located across the state, comprised of boards that consist of teachers, technical school presidents, superintendents. These REITs are where teachers learn, but they've fallen short on giving them the proper education to handle the challenges of the day. Far too many times they're out of touch with what's really going on in the classroom. We really need to make sure that more of the bureaucracy leaves Atlanta and is pushed down to our REITs where they're closer to our schools, so that our teachers can use them as a valuable resource in learning and staying on top of the different trends and making sure our best teachers are sharing best practices.